Have you ever noticed that the more you think, the harder it becomes to speak? That the deeper your thoughts go, the fewer people seem willing to go there with you. It's not arrogance. It's not loneliness by choice. It's something deeper, something built into the way society works. Throughout history, those who asked too many questions often ended up ignored, ridiculed, or worse. Not because they were wrong, but because they refused to stop thinking when others were comfortable staying silent. From Hypatia to Kierkegaard to Alan Watts, deep thinkers have always existed just slightly out of sync with the world around them. Not above it, just apart from it. But why? Why is it that people who explore life's biggest questions often find themselves on the margins? The answer isn't found in textbooks. It lives in psychology, in group dynamics, in fear. Most of us were taught to admire intelligence, to seek knowledge. But there's a difference between knowing things and understanding truths. Real thinking, philosophical thinking, goes beyond facts. It questions everything, even the ground you stand on. And that kind of thinking, it's threatening. Because when someone speaks the truth too clearly, they force others to see what they've been avoiding. That's uncomfortable. That's personal. There's a strange phenomenon psychologists call cognitive dissonance. When people are presented with an idea that clashes with what they believe, their brain doesn't calmly analyze it. It defends itself. It attacks the source. It wants the discomfort to go away. Now imagine being the one who causes that discomfort every time you open your mouth. Not because you're trying to, but because you can't help but see the cracks. This is the quiet burden deep thinkers carry, being aware of things others would rather ignore. And it doesn't just happen in conversations. Watch what happens in social settings. The person who cracks jokes gets the attention. The one who asks a meaningful question gets polite nods, and then silence. People change the subject, check their phones, or laugh awkwardly, not because the topic isn't important, but because it makes them feel vulnerable. In a world that celebrates certainty, those who live in questions are often seen as inconvenient. But here's the twist. Most deep thinkers aren't trying to be rebellious or different. They're simply curious. They feel alive in complexity. They ask why, not to challenge, but to understand. Yet society often mistakes depth for difficulty. In group settings, social harmony takes priority over insight. The person who goes against the grain, even gently, is often excluded, not because they're disliked, but because they disturb the balance. And so, the thinker becomes the outsider, not because they want to be, but because honesty, depth, and quiet awareness rarely fit into conversations built on comfort. But that doesn't mean they're wrong. In fact, history has shown again and again, those who think deeply often see what others can't. Not because they're smarter, but because they're willing to sit with discomfort long enough to learn from it. So if you've ever felt out of place for thinking too much or asking questions that others don't want to answer, you're not alone. You're not broken. You're just wired for truth in a world built for ease. And while that may be lonely, it's also powerful. Because in the long run, it's the questions we're afraid to ask that shape the lives we're too afraid to live.